In my community, you're perceived as being a successful human being based on how much skill you have developed in living in good relationship with the land and living from the land. It's based on how much knowledge you're attaining in your lifetime. You can experience a whole lifetime and not have paid attention to what has happened in that, to yourself or to others, and so you're not gaining that knowledge. And then also the attainment of wisdom. And as you gain more skills, as you gain more knowledge, as you gain more wisdom, you become more successful within my community. Another signifier of success in my community, in Indigenous community, is your wealth is defined by how much you give, not by how much you take. They say, always speak the truth, always speak from your heart, never raise your voice against anyone. And in that way, our people will prevail in whatever the path it is. I think that we don't project that that means one result or another, but that we will prevail in being who we are as a Gwich'in people and carrying ourselves in the way that we were raised. And that is probably the most important thing we can be doing, despite what happens to our people or to the rest of, species and humanity in the world. In the United States, we generated quite a bit of nuclear waste through the years. That's, a lot of it currently being out in New Mexico. And the industry and the government trying to find a location to store this nuclear waste. And of course, the places that are the most appealing are indigenous reservations. And so you have a similar situation where you have the nuclear industry with the federal government trying to seek out a reservation that's willing to store all the nuclear waste on their reservation lands and offering to pay them some millions of dollars a year to allow them to do that. And you have, when you look at these things and you look at Hollywood or Berkeley, for example, and if you had the energy industry coming in saying, hey, we're going to stick a coal-fired power plant down on the corner of University Avenue and Shattuck, it would blow up into a massive resistance. It would never happen. The idea of storing nuclear waste near one of those communities would not even cross the table as a possibility. But within indigenous communities in this country, it's just the norm. The energy industry is wanting to build a massive power plant they're calling Desert Rock on the Navajo Nation that they say will generate some millions of dollars a year for the Navajo Nation tribal government. And then the other major development that is being proposed for the Navajo Nation is a military contract to develop missile technology. And I'm using these examples because it's a way I think of, once you stick a community into a place of dependency, then it's easy to manipulate that community when, the need is so great there. You have the Navajo Nation, 300,000 Navajo people living on a land base in Arizona that half the population still doesn't have telephones, or running water or electricity. Yet you have it being one of the most massive energy producing places in the whole United States, having been powering California, Los Angeles, Las Vegas, Phoenix for generations now. And you have people having made tremendous amount of profit off of that. Peabody Coal Company, some of the coal barons of the earlier generations. And so you still have a population there that's basically in a situation where they can be economically blackmailed by these industries. And you also have, therefore, the energy industry and the military industrial complex through the federal government sinking deeper teeth and ties into that community. So it makes it more difficult for communities to really resist and make transitions that are healthy for themselves. And it's, when you're in a situation where you're struggling day to day to make ends meet and to have a healthy survival for your people and funding for healthcare and education, then you're susceptible to accepting whatever money, resources, or business opportunities come your way.